Hi guys, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this bubu dress with a tight waist elastic band. So if this is a style you are interested in learning, keep watching and let's get started. This fabric is called a Duchess fabric and I made use of 2 yards. For a plus size person, you should make use of 2.5 yards. Now I folded the fabric into two equally and then I further folded it into two again. So I practically folded this fabric into four. So this simply means that after cutting out the design, I'll have both the front piece and the back piece of my bubu dress cut together. Alright, I folded the fabric into four and this is how it should be. The next step is to rule the shoulder line. So there are other fabric you can use in making this bubu dress like the crepe fabric, a non-transparent chiffon fabric, and even an Ankara print fabric. From this side of the fold, I marked the neck width, which is 3 inches. While the neck depth for the back piece is 1.5 inches. I connected both the neck width to the neck depth to form a curved neckline, and this neckline is the neckline for just the back piece. My shoulder measurement divided by 2 is 7 inches. Now I would place my tape from this fold to mark 7 inches. The next step is to mark the sleeve length. So from this point I mark 7 inches, I'll be marking my sleeve length and I want my sleeve length to be 9 inches. So I added extra 1 inch sewing allowance, which made it 10 inches altogether. Now that I've marked the sleeve length, the next step is to mark the width of the sleeve. To get this, I'll be working with my bust point measurement. My bust point measurement is 10 inches. So I'm going to mark 10 inches on this side to connect both points together. So this new line is the sleeve opening. Now at the bottom of this line, I would rule a straight line across this point. And this line is the bust point line. Now I placed my tape from the shoulder to mark my waistline, which is 15 inches. Now from the shoulder line, I would mark my hip line, which is 25 inches. On the bust point line, I placed my bust circumference divided by 4 and I added extra 3 inches allowance to the side. On the waistline, I placed my waist circumference divided by 4 and I added extra 3 inches allowance to the side. And on the hip line, I placed my hip circumference divided by 4 and also added 3 inches sewing allowance to the side. Now I connected the 3 points together. Now I placed my tape from the shoulder to mark my desired length for the dress. The length of my dress is 57 inches, so I added extra 1 inch sewing allowance to the hem, which made it 58 inches altogether. Since this is a straight kaftan, I placed my tape on the hip circumference to take the hip circumference with the sewing allowance included, and this is 12.5 inches. Now I would place this 12.5 inches on the hem of this dress. To connect this point to the hip circumference. On this side, I'll be making a armhole curve so I can conveniently secure the sides properly. Now I went ahead to cut out the dress. The next step is to take out the back piece so you can easily trim out the neckline for the front piece. So I want the neck depth for the front piece to be 4 inches. Now I connected the neck depth to the neck width to form a curved neckline. Now to mark the neck slits, I placed my tape from the neck depth to mark 5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to open up the slits so I get to this point I marked. After this, the next step is to cut out the facing for the neckline. So I folded this little piece into two, then placed the front piece directly on it. To trace out exactly the same neckline. So yeah, I slitted the center of the fold as well. So yeah, I'll be showing you how to mark the edges of the facing. Now on this point where the slit stopped, I would place my tape from that point to mark 2 inches. And then from there, I would mark 2 inches from this side of the fold to make a straight line. So on the curved side of the neckline, I would place my tape in a slant manner to mark 2 inches as well to connect all dots together. Alright, after this has been done, I went ahead to cut out the edges of the facing. So I took the facing to my ironing board to gum a gum stay on the wrong side of the facing and to also iron the edges of the facing by ½ inch. So what I did next was to place the right side of the facing directly on the right side of the neckline. To stitch the edges of the neckline by ½ inch following the direction of my finger. After stitching the edges of the neckline, I went ahead to notch the seams because I want the facing to be properly relaxed and flat by the time I flip it to the wrong side of the front piece. Alright, now I'll take this to the ironing board to iron the facing properly. So this is called the hemming gum. I would cut this into pieces to place it in between the facing and the front piece so that the facing can be properly relaxed without pulling out. So I'm done placing the hemming gum in the right places. I went ahead to place a fabric directly on the neckline, then used my iron to melt the hemming gum so it sticks. So I've made the neckline for the front piece. The next step is on how to make the neckline for the back piece. I folded this little piece into two, then placed the back piece directly on it. To cut out the neckline, now to know the wideness of the facing, I'll be placing my tip from the curved neckline to mark 2 inches. Now I connected the dotted points together. To cut out, I took the facing to the ironing board to place a gum stay on the wrong side and to also fold the edges of the facing by ½ inch. Now I place the facing on the right side of the back piece to stitch the neckline by ½ inch following the direction of my finger. After stitching the neckline, I'll go ahead to notch the seams, then take this to the sewing machine to top stitch the edges of the facing on this side. After the facing has been top stitched, I flipped the facing to the wrong side of the back piece. Now I place the back piece directly on the front piece. To stitch the shoulders properly, I'll flip this side of the facing to capture the front piece. Now I'll take this to the sewing machine to stitch the shoulder by ½ inch. And for the second shoulder, I would also flip the facing of the back piece to capture the front piece as well and take this to stitch by ½ inch. So after stitching the shoulders, this is how it should be. And the next thing I did was to place some hemming gum below the facing of the back piece. So this is all for the neckline of this dress. Now I would secure the edges of the sleeve, folding it in by ½ inch and further folding it in by ½ inch. And to also secure this other edge of the sleeve by folding it in by ½ inch and further folding it by ½ inch. After I secured the sleeve opening, I flipped the dress to the wrong side of the fabric. So this is the back side of the dress. In order to know where to attach the elastic, I would place the tape from the shoulder to mark my waistline. My waistline is 15 inches. So I ruled a straight line across this point I marked. So I'll be making an elastic casing band, which the elastic will be inserted into. For this reason, I will take the measurements of the waist circumference with the sewing allowance included. So this is 21 inches. So this is the fabric I'm using for the elastic casing. So like I said, the width of the band should be the same with the waistline, which is 21 inches, while the length of the band should be 5 inches. Now I'll fold the band into two to secure this edge by ½ inch. So I would have two openings on this side. I went ahead to turn the elastic casing to the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to take the elastic casing to the ironing board to iron it properly, making sure that this joining is at the center. To know the length of the elastic band I need, I folded the elastic casing into two and took the measurements. So this is 10.5 inches. This simply means that the length of my elastic would also be 10.5 inches. So also take note that this is a 1-inch elastic band. Now I'll go ahead to insert the elastic band into the elastic casing. So at this edge, I'll make sure that the elastic is centered at the middle. Then I'll pin this together. And on this other edge, I'll also make sure that the elastic is centered at the middle to pin together as well. The next step is on how to attach the elastic to the waistline. Now I went ahead to spread out the dress, and then take note that this is the right side of the back piece. And you can see me trying to get the waistline I chalked initially. Now I would place one edge of the elastic band by this side to pin, and to also pin the other edge of the elastic band on this side of the waistline as well. After this is done, I would place the front piece of the dress directly on the back piece, making sure that all the sides are equal. Now I started by stitching this side by 1 inch. Now I remember that there's a side slit at the bottom of this dress, so I placed my tape from the bottom upward to mark 19 inches because that is how long I want the side slit to be. Now I'll keep stitching and stop stitching on this point. For this other side, I would also stitch by 1 inch. I'll make sure that the edges are equal. Take this to the sewing machine to stitch by 1 inch. And on getting to the bottom, I would also place my tape from the bottom vertically upwards to mark 19 inches as well. So I stopped stitching when I got to this point. So whatever is left here is for the slits. Alright, so the side has been stitched. I'll turn the dress to the right side of the fabric. The final step is to secure the slit opening at the bottom of this dress. So I took this to the sewing machine to secure the sides by 1/2 inch and further fold this by 1/2 inch in, and then I continued sewing to this other side. And for the second slit, I repeated the same sewing process. After I was done with the slit, I went ahead to secure the hem by folding it 1/2 inch in and further folding it by 1/2 inch in, and also secure the side of the hem as well. Alright guys, so this is the final outcome of the dress. You should give it a try, and I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe, share and like my videos, and also put on your notification bell to be notified so you'll be the first person to know whenever I upload new tutorials. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next tutorial.